Is it fair to say that RFK Jr. is anti-vaccine? He says many times, almost in every interview I've ever seen, that he's not. And he's typically described that way by, most people, or at least the mainstream media. And this video is to sort of explore whether or not it's legitimate to say it or not, and what anti-vaccine actually means. I started thinking about RFK Jr. some time ago because of my friendships with people who find his ideas reasonable and are supporting him for president, or at least support him in general. And of course, I disagree with them, but I like them. I respect them. They're good friends of mine. They're intelligent and they have good intentions. So I hope in this video, I'm talking to people who also like him and are, I would assume, intelligent, good intentioned people as well. And, because I think there is significant problems with the way he discusses this issue. So let's get down to it. Is RFK Jr. anti-vaccine or not? Let's see what he says.
Vaccines, I've never been anti-vaccine. And I've said that hundreds and hundreds of times, but it doesn't matter. Because that is a way of silencing me. Using that pejorative to describe me is a way of silencing or marginalizing me. I'm not anti-vaccine, and I never have been. Somebody last night asked me about how I got into the anti-vax racket, and which I'm not anti-vaccine. Although I'm kind of the poster child for the anti-vax movement.
So he says he's the poster child for the anti-vaccine movement, but he says he's anti-vaccine. Everybody calls him anti-vaccine, but he says that's just maligning him. So which is it? Is it fair to call him anti-vaccine, or is it a slander? That's the question we're going to try to address. I think one thing we have to look at right away is RFK's very frequent claim that he's not anti-vaccine, he's pro-safe vaccine.
How did you come to the position that vaccines were a problem?
First of all, you started out by introducing me as anti-vaccine, which I'm not. People say I'm anti-vaccine because they don't want to have the argument with me about how to improve vaccines. And I'm not anti-vaccine. I believe we should have safe vaccines. I'm not anti-vaccines just because I want safe vaccines. And I think
so. This is RFK Jr.'s standard refrain. It's some variation of, I'm not against vaccines. I'm not anti-vaccine. I just want safe vaccines. Well, what does this actually mean? So I do think that this answer to the criticism that he is anti-vaccine is a very effective rhetorical mechanism. It kind of moves the conversation away from what his actual problems are with vaccines, which is that they basically, in his view, are terribly harmful, and moves the discussion to the common sense notion that we all want what's best for our kids and we all want something safe. And in that way, I think it's quite effective. But don't we all want something safe? Is that really a distinction between his position and the position of the mainstream medical community? I think I'm a fairly typical representative of the mainstream medical community. And I could just as easily use the same rhetoric. I could say, I'm not pro-vaccine, I'm pro-safe vaccine, because of course I am. Of course the medical establishment is. I mean, why wouldn't we be? We want safe vaccines. We don't want just any old vaccine that's we don't really care if it hurts people. Why? We're all on the same page on that. So to me, that distinction, while effectively, a really effective rhetorical mechanism, is not getting to the heart of the issue. It does not really, it helps slide by what the actual distinction is between his position and the pro-vaccine position. If the difference is not wanting something safe, and we can agree that everybody wants something safe for their kids, then what is the difference? The difference to me, that the key distinction is that within the statement, I'm not anti-vaccine, I'm pro-vaccine, is buried the main point. And the main point is that RFK Jr. doesn't think any of the current existing vaccines are safe. He is sort of using this idea that he's not unreasonable. Vaccines in general, of course, could be a good mechanism for us to protect children. But it's just, what's unstated is that none of the ones that we have currently are safe. And that is, again, the key distinction. He is in complete opposition to, in contradiction to, the mainstream medical consensus, the scientific consensus, sort of the group opinion of doctors, epidemiologists, virologists, essentially every public health agency in the world. There's not a lot that countries agree on in the world, but what public health agencies in every country agree on is that kids should be vaccinated. You know, in Israel, they agree their kids should be vaccinated, and in the Palestinian territories, they agree their kids should be vaccinated. In Ukraine and in Russia, in China, in the US, it is universal. And so the distinction he is drawing is between that position and his own position, which is that vaccines are causing terrible harm. So, in that way, I don't think claiming that he's not anti-vaccine, he's pro-safe vaccine, really holds water. Sure, there's a vaccine somewhere in the future, in some ideal situation, that he would support. But the ones that currently exist, the ones we're talking about, he doesn't support. Another way that RFK Jr. addresses the description of him as anti-vaccine is to really double down on the idea that that description of him is actually designed to attack him, as sort of propaganda against him. He shifts, by doing that, as we'll see in these next clips, he shifts attention from his actual views on vaccines to this concept that he's being maligned and silenced and censored and made to seem irrational.
For the record, where do you stand on vaccines like the MMR vaccine and other related childhood vaccines today?
Well, I have never been anti-vaccine. That is a pejorative that's applied to me in order to marginalize me and silence me. And as you point out, have people dismiss me as somebody who's irrational or crazy.
Now I'm subject to this new form of censorship, which is called targeted propaganda, where people apply pejoratives like anti-vax. I've never been anti-vaccine, but everybody in this room probably believes that I have been, because that's the prevailing narrative.
So I think this is another really effective rhetorical strategy that RFK uses. He effectively changes the question from, are his particular views about childhood vaccination reasonable? Are they defendable? It shifts the attention from that to this idea that he actually is a victim of something that's unfair and something that's malign. He's being targeted. And this is a great strategy. But is he being unfairly maligned? Well, there may be some senses in which he is attacked. I mean, I think that brainworm thing that people ran with was unfair. I mean, there's millions and millions of people who have that, presumably the parasite that he had, and it doesn't affect their mental acuity. So in that way, I think he does get attacked. But he's, again, evading the question about whether or not he is, in fact, against the vaccines that currently exist, based on his belief that he thinks they do terrible harm. RFK Jr. says that he's never said anything that would lead anyone to believe that he's anti-vaccine.
And they called me anti-vax because of a way of discrediting me and
Right,
marginalizing me and shutting. But I've never said anything to anybody to make anybody think I'm anti-vax.
Well, is that really true? Has he never said anything to anybody to lead people to believe that he's anti-vaccine? I'm sorry, that is just not credible. And I'm going to play a series of clips here that clearly demonstrate that his belief about vaccine is that they are causing terrible harm. Here's a clip, for example, stating that he believes vaccines cause autism.
The science is so overwhelming on the link between vaccines and autism. It needs no further research. The research is out there, the CDC's own research.
Here's a clip where he claims that vaccines are injuring millions of children.
You have to admit that your position is controversial, and you have this strong reputation as an environmentalist, and a lot of people criticize you about these positions. Are you concerned about your reputation?
Well, of course, I'd rather have everybody love me, but listen, I'm seeing something where we're seeing millions of children badly injured.
Here's a clip that shows RFK Jr. describing how, even in his own private personal life, if he has the opportunity to talk to someone that has a baby and warn them not to get vaccines, he does it so he can, in his words, save that baby. Save them from what? Save them from vaccines and the harm that they cause.
And I think now those days are over. Our job is to resist and to talk about it to everybody. If you're walking down the street, and I do this now myself, which is, I don't want to do, I'm not a busybody. I see somebody on a hiking trail carrying a little baby, and I say to him, better not get him vaccinated. And he heard that from me. If he hears it from 10 other people, maybe he won't do it. Maybe he will save that child.
The more you listen to these type of clips, the harder it is to make the argument that RFK Jr. is not against vaccines. And in my mind, if you're against vaccines, you are anti-vaccine. This last clip that I'm going to show, I think, brings it home more than any other clip I've seen, and I've seen a lot. It's almost hard to believe he's saying it to me. But he is saying it. Take a listen.
And can you imagine this? If a foreign enemy did this to our country, disabled all these kids, what would we do to them? It's an act of war that these pharmaceutical companies are making on our country. And
in this last clip, RFK Jr. is saying that giving vaccines is equivalent to an act of war. If that doesn't crystallize his conception that vaccines are doing terrible harm, nothing else will. If that does not convince you, then nothing else will. He is dead set against the current vaccines that we have available to us. If he believes these things, which he certainly seems to, I have no reason to doubt his sincerity of the belief. If he believes these things, then why wouldn't you be anti-vaccine? There is no justification not to be anti-vaccine if you believe they're causing that degree of harm. So, is it fair to call RFK Jr. anti-vaccine? My answer to that question is, without question, it is fair. And I hope that this video has demonstrated that. This belief is a core belief of RFK Jr. He has spent decades now advocating against childhood vaccination because he believes it's causing terrible harm. I would have much less problem with what he's saying, even though I think it's false. I mean, I think it's inaccurate what he says, but I would have much less problem with what he is saying if he would just embrace it, say it, defend it. Don't say that you're not anti-vaccine, you're safe vaccine. That's just a smokescreen. Don't say that you're just being attacked unfairly. It's propaganda. It's slandering you. It's not. It's accurate. Your views are against vaccines. You think they're causing terrible harm. Just say it. This whole terrible video could have been avoided if you would just say it. I just don't think it's intellectually honest to deny it. I think it is an example of RFK Jr.'s rhetoric that is misleading. Just say what you mean. We'll all be happier. It'll all be clearer. Anyway, so hopefully this video was useful. I'll be releasing a few other videos to do with RFK's rhetoric about safety testing, his description and discussion about science, about sort of natural immunity, and about how he characterizes the diseases that vaccines are designed to mitigate or prevent. Thanks for watching. Thank you.